We welcome you into STL Moms. Glad you're along with us today, covering a lot of topics, but we're starting out with whooping cough. And my goodness, if your children have had it, you're very well aware of it because it's that awful sound that they start coughing, and it's just pertussis. It's just a icky disease, and cases are on the rise, and that is across the United States. Some, in fact, are even worse than they were like pre-pandemic levels. So they're up, I believe, the highest numbers that we've seen in 37 years, and there have also been 2 deaths. And sometimes, if the child is young enough, they'll end up, being hospitalized with whooping cough because it's a really nasty disease. We do have a story on that about those cases being on the rise.
According to the state health department, Louisiana is seeing a surge in whooping cough cases and is on pace to set a new state record. The previous high, 214 cases back in 2013. But in just the first 4 months of this year, 164 cases have already been reported. That's already more than all of last year. So far, 2 infants have died after contracting the disease.
Where it does cause problems is that, number one, it's very easily spread. And number 2, at the extremes of life. So tiny babies who aren't eligible for vaccination yet, and then our elders and our immunocompromised can get really, really sick with it.
Whooping cough, also known as pertussis, often starts with symptoms like a runny nose and a mild cough, but it can quickly progress to violent coughing fits, sometimes followed by vomiting or difficulty breathing. The CDC says 1 in 3 babies younger than 1 year old who get whooping cough require hospitalization.
Your vaccination series starts when you're a child. It starts at 2 months, but if you're younger than 2 months, or if you start your series late, then you're at risk.
Health leaders are partially blaming declining vaccination rates for the surge. Data shows fewer kids are getting their DTaP shots, and many adults have put off their Tdap boosters.
We're getting to the levels at which we're no longer going to really be considered protected. It's a proven science that vaccines have been one of the best interventions of the last 100 years. They're responsible for millions and millions and millions of lives saved.
So what's crazy is not only are the rates of pertussis up in infants and babies and children, also in adults. Yes, adults can actually have whooping cough, and hospitalization rates are second highest right now in older adults. One of the things that they alluded to there in that story was that one of the reasons that cases may be on the rise has to do with vaccination rates. Not as many people are getting vaccinated when it comes to this. And this is the number reported in last year was higher than what was seen in 2019, as I mentioned earlier, prior to the pandemic. So we're just seeing so many of these cases. And during the 80s, it's interesting that those are when reports began to increase gradually leading up to its peak. Back in 2012 was initially when a lot of the cases were up, until now in 2025, and we're seeing this huge rise in those cases. But yeah, man, I was asking Joe, and he said none of his boys have had it, but like I said, if you have these coughing fits, they're just awful. And I think they mentioned in the story, like sometimes they're coughing so hard that they start to throw up. It's just not fun for anyone. So certainly hoping that they can get a grasp on these cases and maybe get them to start seeing a decline instead of continuing to rise. All right, the other story that really touched me this week was regarding a 14-year-old football player, and he was playing his first high school game. And something happened to him after he took the field, and now many are gathering around him because this kid has such hope in him, and he's so positive, and I love that part of the story. So let's take a listen.
One of the very first things that 14-year-old Julius Byers told me was to tell those that are supporting him to, quote, keep praying because it's working, as he begins the hardest fight of his life.
I'm doing good. I've been fighting, been pushing through every day. It's hard.
That's Julius Byers from his hospital room at Children's Mercy. A vibrant, outdoorsy, he loves to fish, just a teenager with a dream to play football. In his first ever freshman football game for Liberty High, in an away game against Lee Summit High, he got in during the second quarter.
He made a couple of plays. We're all excited. And then one play he made.
A play that would drastically change his life in a split second.
I remember getting off the block and I got hit, and then I like kind of like blacked out a little bit. Then I woke up.
He woke up to medical professionals surrounding him before being put on a stretcher and taken to the hospital with a grim prognosis. 3 fractures in his neck, a concussion, and an incomplete spinal cord injury that's left both of his arms paralyzed.
It's very difficult to see your child in so much pain, and so much hurt, even his mental state of what he's going to be from now on and how he's going to move on with his life.
And the things we take for granted, eating and bathing, he can't do alone anymore. He experienced terrible flashbacks, couldn't think or look at anything related to football. But when we talk about courage, it's saved for people like Julius Byers.
What's keeping that smile on your face right now? Because there's a lot of reasons that you could be frowning, but you're smiling. What's keeping you optimistic?
Just waking up every day, praying, thanking God for what He done for me and all my family and friends.
Julius will be out of school for at least 6 months. He is expected to get out of the hospital this week. With a long road ahead, we asked his dad about his recovery, and his dad responded and said it will be a, quote, great comeback. And we can't wait to share that story. If you can help this family, there's a link attached to this story on fox4kc.com to do just that. In Kansas City, Missouri, I'm Malik Jackson, Fox 4, working for you.
How much do you love that kid, Julius? Oh my gosh, just all that he's going through. And as you know, the reporter said, I'm just keeping that smile on his face. And I think for so many parents, at least I know that this was for me, that whole just thought of playing football and whether you should allow your kid to do it, because it's a brutal sport and they get hurt a lot. And I mean, I went ahead and thankfully it was only one of my 2 boys who wanted to play, but I felt like if I said, no, you can't play, that they would somehow hold that against me like the rest of my life. So I was like, go ahead and play. But they are starting to do more things now when it comes to concussions and trying to prevent those. But yeah, any play, any little thing, as we've seen from the high school level with Julius there on up to the NFL with injuries that will put players out for the rest of their life and change the rest of their life as well. So certainly continue to have prayers for Julius as he has a long road to recovery. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the precautions that they're taking when it comes to football when we come back. Stick around. Welcome back into STL Moms. We're glad you're along with us. And once again, continuing the conversation when it comes to kids playing football and what families, and you can even Google, should I let my kid play football, right? And there's going to be, it's kind of a complex issue. And I think there's a lot of stuff that you have to weigh because of injuries that they can have. And to have a conversation of, okay, with your child, have a conversation with your son and talk about some of the things that could happen. Talk about concussions. Let them know about those things. Life lessons, though, are also something that you should talk about. And I do believe that the game of football is such a team sport. I mean, it is not about one player. It can't possibly just be about one person. It is absolutely a team sport. And I think that it teaches sportsmanship and it teaches working with your teammates and coming together. And it was weird for me because it was 7th grade, which a lot of times they say if you can put off your child, like not elementary school, which we did do flag football first, and then maybe to transition them in, which was what happened with me in middle school. And it was 7th grade and all growing up, he had played soccer, he played basketball, and he played baseball. And he played soccer and baseball were probably the bigger ones of those, where he, played on traveling teams and things like that. But especially with baseball, because he was a catcher and he was a really good catcher, played with the Tigers and other teams, but he was also a switch hitter. So he had a lot going for him in baseball. So when he came to me in 7th grade, it was like, yeah, I think I want to try football. I was like, what? No, like it broke my heart. Like not ready for him to put baseball behind him. But after having conversations, I thought, I'm going to let him try this. And I was a little apprehensive, to be honest. I was concerned. I talked to, Kurt Warner over the years about the concussions and even him kind of wrangling with, should I let my own children play? because of the dangers of it. But ultimately, I can say, as he is now a senior and played, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and now into his 12th grade year, the friends that he has made, the things that football has brought to him and his life have far outweighed some of the other things that I was really struggling with. So I'm certainly thankful and grateful for that. That doesn't mean he's not in physical therapy or seeing an orthopedic surgeon, because he is. We just had an MRI last night, so there's that part of it too. But he's excited to go on and play in college, which is a whole another level. But I've been just super proud of him. So I think that decision, it is definitely one that a family needs to discuss, because of the risks that are when you're out there on the field, like we just saw with that story. They are, though, making more steps to try to prevent more injuries, especially when it comes to concussions. And we do have a story about that.
Guardian caps are add-ons to your standard football helmet. It's an extra padded layer that goes on top to help protect the head and absorb shock from tackles. UAB says it's happy to partner with the Birmingham Youth Sports League because Guardian caps can run $75 to $100 per cover, and that additional cost can be too expensive for some families. Dr. Stephen Brown is the Division Chief of Sports and Exercise Medicine at UAB. He says most of the research on sports concussions comes from the professional and collegiate level athletes, but the younger generation is still affected by this.
In youth sports, the leagues tend to be less centralized, tends to be less integrated with local healthcare systems. So we're hoping to build on that through this Guardian Cap purchase to where we can actually begin to study more in-depth pediatric concussions and these protective add-ons that may help to produce less concussions.
Brown says that Guardian caps are just one piece of the puzzle, and it's just as important to learn safe tackling techniques to help prevent concussions. Reporting on deck, Maddie McQueen, CBS 42 News.
All right, so maybe more school programs hopping on that bandwagon, getting a little more protection around your head. That's good. You go back and you look at, though, like old pictures, whether it's baseball or football, they didn't wear any helmets. You know what I mean? You look at those team photos. Have you ever done that, Joe? You go back and go, there's nothing on their head. No, yeah. They didn't do anything.
No,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how the way they used to play in those leather helmets and all the rest of it.
That was it. That's all they had.
Yeah, it's all they had, and yeah, and it's a tough sport, and people understand that, and I get it. Yeah. And I played football in high school, and I didn't have any problems. I was on the line there, and it wasn't a.
You're on the O line?
I was on the defensive line.
What did you play?
I don't remember. It was like guard or something like that.
What do you mean you don't remember?
It's probably the concussion. It was a long time ago too. So.
Did you enjoy it though?
I really liked it. What
did you like about it?
It was the team. Being on a team with a bunch of people, trying to really work for a cause, or you're trying to work towards something, towards that win. Learning how to work with each other, and then just having like the whole school behind you. Yeah. And like having people just like really going for it, and it was cool. Yeah. But I definitely did the thing that a lot of kids do is it got to be too much, and I quit the team because it was
too much.
It was competitive, and I wasn't cut out for it. And
it is competitive for sure.
And it was also like who you knew too. And I didn't get enough play time. And like I went to like Iowa City to play on play in a game. Yeah. And they didn't put me on the field at all.
The whole time.
And sat on the bench. And I was like, I don't have time for this. So that was it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, I've just kind of sat back and watched my son do his thing. I mean, I have not pushed him, but he pushed himself.
Yeah,
and that's for the love of the game. I mean, that kid does not miss a day at the gym. I don't care if he's gone to school all day, has practice after, he comes home, he eats, and he still goes to the gym.
It says a lot about his character. I mean, it's pretty cool.
I mean, that's what he loves to do. And, he has other buddies who, will go to the gym with him. So I think just seeing that bond has been really what I have loved about football, is the bond that he has had with his teammates. And it's so great to see that play out on the field. And when one of them does something great, just the congratulations. It's the ultimate team sport, and just to see them come together. And I know one of the other moms, she'll record all the video during games, but there was one where after, and they'd had like a big play, and just to see them hugging, it was just like, and all the moms were like, I love the bond that they have. And it's I don't know, it's just, there's something about it that
it's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see that.
Yeah. I know with my like little kids, and you know, we've definitely discussed them playing football as well.
You have?
Oh yeah, it comes up quite a bit.
I don't know why I would think,
there.
Joe, you wouldn't let them play football.
I would.
You would?
Oh, I would 100%. My
Okay.
wife is against it, and most of the parents I know are not. They don't want it. It's not on their radar. They don't want it. They don't want to have it
I
happen.
completely understand. There is no judgment from me, because I struggled with it too. I really did. And I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
well, let's just, maybe he'll be bad and he'll go back to baseball. I mean, right. Because, like even at our school, I mean, there's tons of kids, Joe, on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Who never step on the field during game day, unless we're really far ahead, and maybe, then they'll get in, or, they're playing a team that's not as good. So, they'll get a big enough margin that the other kids will get to play.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's a tight game, and just, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it was, their whole summers are given up. Basically, they had 2 weeks off, 2 dark weeks, that they didn't have to be at camp or, doing a performance type thing. So it's a huge commitment. And I
and
think
that's kind of,
in some ways that's good.
yeah, in some ways that's great,
Yeah, 'cause it's
but
teaching them discipline.
you got to show up, and even before school starts, you're there on the field, and
Yeah.
you're in 100-degree temperatures, you're outside, pushing stuff around, and it's something, but
And I know for us, they do.
that commitment can be too much, especially academically for a lot of kids.
When they do, they're obviously Friday night lights. So at our school, they'll do, and I think a lot of schools do this, but they'll have a 6 a.m. practice on Thursdays. So that way they kind of can do whatever Thursday night, go through video, or, just do a walkthrough or whatever they're doing. But I think that's great too, because that's such great discipline to say, you have to be there.
Yeah.
And you have to be up at 5 a.m.
Get up there
And you have
early
to be
for
on
practice.
the field at 6
Got up there.
a.m. or they're going to make everyone, dummy run, carrying a dummy on the back. And so, again, it's a team thing, because if one of them shows up late, they all have to do it.
Oh man, yeah.
Not just the kid who showed up late.
Yeah.
So there was
You
one.
never hear the end of that.
Right. There was one day, and my son was like, "Oh yeah, I had to wake up, one of his buddies, because he would have missed the start of practice." And also, if they miss the start, that means that they're not playing. It's either the first quarter or the first half of that game.
Oh wow.
So
there's a major penalty
you
for
have
being
a
late.
reason, right? That's your teammate. You want to win. You want them on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, cheering for each other to, be there, which is, I think, kind of neat too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't show up, and it's such a sign of respect for other people that you show up on time, and
Yes.
that you are there to participate fully.
Right. Exactly.
That'd be hard.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That I'm glad you said that you would let them play. I didn't know you played football though.
Yeah.
So that might affect it too.
It's not as scary to me as to some other people. You see a lot of these big injuries, and they don't happen. They happen.
Yeah.
But it's not like everybody gets injured every game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, of course not. Of course not. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Rich on Tech has this autism hair test, which is pretty interesting and definitely worth you taking a look. So stick around. We were just talking about the numbers of autism, and I remember when it was 1 in 150, so I was kind of looking back on that. So they said it was 1 in 150 back in 2000. Now it's 1 in 31 kids in 2022 that have autism. And there's this new test out. It's a hair test that can be done on children, and it can tell as little as just a few months old whether they have autism. Rich on Tech has the story. Check this out.
Rebecca Berthiola noticed her 3-year-old son George showing early signs of possible autism.
Covering ears, sensitivity to noise, and not always answering his name.
Her pediatrician warned a traditional diagnosis could take a year or longer.
It did seem like longer than what I wanted because I was seeing signs and I kind of wanted confirmation.
That's when she learned about a new hair test called ClearStrand, available for children as young as 1 month and up to 4 years old.
What I like about ClearStrand is that it's not invasive, right? It's not a blood test.
The test requires just a few strands of hair collected at home and mailed to a lab. Results come back in about 3 to 4 weeks.
ClearStrand is another tool now where we can really get early objective data even before the official clinical diagnosis can be made, and this can help us with early therapy and treatments.
Test is 95% accurate in ruling out autism.
Dr. Manish Arora developed the test, partly inspired by his own daughter.
My youngest daughter is neurodiverse, but getting the right diagnosis for her took me 2 years.
The technology uses lasers to analyze hair like growth rings on a tree, searching for biomarkers over time.
We're not just looking at molecules that are inside your body, and this single strand of hair, about 1 inch of hair, is like 1,000 blood tests.
At $750, ClearStrand isn't cheap, but the company says it's working to reduce costs and expand insurance coverage.
Our vision is that in the next 6 months to 1 year, we will have coverage by one of the major insurance groups.
For Rebecca, the positive test result wasn't necessarily a surprise, but it gave her family a clear starting point.
It was a little heartbreaking at first because I didn't know where to go from there, but also it was like a sense of relief because we didn't have to wait so long.
Certainly interesting. And yeah, I think once insurance companies are able to cover that, I can see a lot more parents certainly looking into using that as a mode of knowing whether their child has autism. In the U.S., about 4 in 100 boys are likely to have autism. 1 in 100 girls have autism. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. And in the U.S., autism prevalence is lower among white children than racial and ethnic groups. So a lot of different stats on that. Around the world, 1 in 100 children are diagnosed with autism. And I know the health secretary, Robert Kennedy, was saying that he wants to do more in terms of finding causes for that other than just hearing genetics or environmental concerns, but that he wants to dig a little bit deeper so that families can have answers when it comes to autism. That is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.